Welcome to Tobar's Realm. Today I'm going to start on a stained glass project. I was recently in a rock shop and they had a stained glass lamp that had a piece of agate set into it, and it was basically a rectangle like that was about, let's see, those are pretty bad three-dimensional drawing here, but we'll get the idea. This was probably about 8 inches tall and by about, I don't know, maybe 6. But it had an agate set approximately there, and then it had different kind of geometric shapes, something similar to this. Something kind of like that. And I bought these agate slices online. They're really nice quality. I think they're really pretty too. It was about $25 for 10 of them. So I figured I'd buy 10 because I knew that if I bought just 4, they wouldn't have exactly what I'm looking for, but I knew with 10 I'd have enough choices to choose from here, because I don't want to do one that's like super solid color. So I picked out the 4 I thought would look the best with the light coming through. So I'm going to start making the pattern to fit these things. On the bottom it just had like a base, like a wooden base, something like that, that had a lamp that went up on the inside with the cord that come out like that. So that's my plan. So here's where I got to. I ended up going with 5 inches wide and 7 tall, and then these will be in there basically like that. And then all these different panels will be different colors of purple stained glass. I have multiple to pick from, so I'm going to make additional copies of these and get them numbered, and I will keep them separate. Each side will be dedicated to a specific agate slice, so I'll have to keep track of those. I just store them in a Ziploc bag just to keep them organized. Number all the pieces so I know which one's which. So I'll actually need 5 copies, 4 to cut up for the patterns, and then 1 master copy that shows me where everything goes. So I guess I will start drawing out additional copies of this. Normally I'd just do it on a photocopier, but I don't have one at home to do it with, so I'll just do it the hard way and draw them back out. I'll take marker and line it all out and make some copies. Well, I got my 5 copies done. I got 1 master copy and then the 4 sides. Before I cut them out, what I think I'm going to do is take this to the glass grinder to square up these edges a little. They're kind of rounded and I don't think the foil will stick to those very good. I'm hopeful that glass grinder will work just fine on this. I'll try it on another piece first just to be sure. Once I get those corners squared up, I'll decide where I want them, draw a line around it, and that'll be the pattern edges for all these other ones. So I want to do that before I cut all these out. So I got my grinder out and I just did a little test piece here just to make sure it would work as I anticipate, and that seems to work just fine. So I'm going to start cleaning up the edges on the parts I'm going to actually use, and do that before I figure out where I'm going to put it on the pattern. We can cut them out, so get started on that. Well, I got all the edges on these agate slices ground down pretty much. Good to go to be foiled. And then now I'm going to put them on this pattern here. I think I'm going to go 1 3/4 inch from the top. Figure out where I want it, center it left to right. Then I'll just trace around it, and then that'll be my new pattern for those rectangular pieces. So, and I think let's see, I also added A, B, C, D to each one of these sides so I can keep those straight. Because I'm thinking I'm going to keep the glass patterns the same on each side. So like piece number 1 will be the same color glass as one on the side of each panel. And then I'm just gonna put a little piece of tape with the A on here and probably a line to orient it, because like this one's kind of round, so it might be hard to tell which way it goes once I cut those out. So I'll label that and decide which side looks better being out. And you can see I ground the edges on all those. So coming along nicely so far. So that's what I'm going to do now, is just get it put where I want, trace it out, and then I can cut those patterns out. Alright, so I got everything cut out. This one's the D panel. And here's the rest of them. So next I'm going to start grinding them. And what I do, which is a little different, I don't know if I've seen anyone else do this, but I put the pattern on the bottom of, well, normally I use clear glass, but I don't have any for some reason. So I just use yellow because I can see through it. And then I'll get this thing sized just perfect. And then I glue it down. I just put a little bit of glue stick on it and glue it right there. And then I can get them exactly the way I want them and just glue it to that. And then it's real easy just to pop them off later when you're ready to foil them. So that's what I'm going to start on. And then when I'm grinding them, all these ones on the outside, I'm going to put a 45 degree bevel on the corner edge, so that when I put them together, there won't be a huge gap that I have to fill in with solder. It'll fit together a little better. But that will be a little bit later. First, just to start getting these sized up. Alright, well, I got all the pieces shaped for the first panel. I just tacked them down with that glue stick. Once I got it the shape I wanted it, I just tacked it down with a little bit of that glue, and I can pop these right off again. That just helps hold them. Alright, so here's the last of the 4 sides done, and it's still currently glued down to this glass sheet here just to keep them in place, but I already got the other 3 sides done. So now I just need to pop these all loose, go wash them off, clean them up, and then I'll be ready to start foiling the edges of all these. Turned out pretty good, I guess. Well, here's my foil. So I think I'm going to go with the wider one. This is 7/32 as opposed to my 3/16. And I like to use the foil that has the back of it that is black. You can get it where it's copper color, but anyway. So I just need to make my way around all these, center it on the edge, make it all the way around. That beveled edge I might have to mess with a little to make sure it's got enough on the edge. Might have to do 2 along that side, but that's the next tedious step, is foiling all these. Alright, well, I got the first side I started foiling done. These are the internal ones that don't have the beveled edge. So what I did, you can see all these beveled edge ones, I just added an extra piece. That'll be like on the inside corner. And what I plan on doing is putting a piece of wire along the inside corner just to add some strength to it. So I needed a little bit bigger footprint with that foil on there. You can see I did that on all the ones that had the beveled edge. And then obviously the ones that are internal that or either are internal, like this one doesn't have any outside edges, or I'm not even sure which one this one is, but it will be either the top or the bottom, where I'm gonna put some lead cane on it to just finish off the border on the top and the bottom. Like this one I think sits like this around, and then here's the agate slice. And so what on that, I just did it so that the border on the outside was the size I wanted, essentially the same as what it is on the rest of these pieces, but it's so thick that I had to do two, one towards the inside, one towards the outside. But it turned out good, I think. And then something I'm thinking about is that this is so thick in comparison to the glass, is that when I solder, I will do all the pieces essentially on the outside, tack them all together, and then I will cut just like a thin, like beer box cardboard, cut hole out so that this is countersunk into it, which will raise up that layer of the glass around it so that it'll be more centered on the middle of that thick agate slice. So that's the plan so far, but as of right now I just need to keep on foiling the rest. Alright, well, I ran out of the foil to finish doing the rest of these, so I think I'll start doing a little bit of soldering. I'm just getting these parts kind of back in line here, and then I'll start tacking it together. Alright, so I got it tacked together. I think that looks pretty good, pretty straight. I didn't tack the centerpiece because I think I mentioned before it's a lot thicker than the glass is. So what I want to do is get a piece of like poster board or beer box cardboard, cut a hole of this, and then put this on top of that so it'll bring it up about, I would say, maybe a millimeter or so. Try and center it a little better depth-wise, so this is not so sticking out on the one side. So I'm just going to start soldering this a little bit better. So I just tacked this together a little better. This is by no means done, but I did want to make it strong enough so I could move it around, and I'll get this piece out, and then I'm going to work on getting that cardboard thing set up so I can tack this on it too. And then once that's done, probably go do the other side and tack it, and then just kind of flip it back and forth until these solder lines look good. These are by no means even close to done yet. And then I'm going to leave the edges at the top and the bottom and the sides not soldered yet, because these I'll solder to the corner, the other side of the other one, and then I want to put cane on the top and bottom. So that's why I'm not doing anything with that yet. got the back side of it soldered pretty good. You can see all these splatters from the flux that was down in the little groove. So when I filled it in, I had to make sure all that flux was boiled out of it. It just causes these, but they just come right off of there. I'll come and do the back again after I do the front, but this one I kept having to add solder to it, and then it's like, I bet it's dripping through the other side. I don't know if you can see that through the glass. There's a little bubble of solder on the other side, so I'll have to clean that up, but so far so good. I'm not sure if I should leave this solder silver or should I put a black patina. I'm thinking the silver will look nice with the purple. Alright, side number 3 soldered. One more to go. Alright, got all 4 sides soldered up to the edges, because I'm going to put lead came on the bottom and the tops, and then I'm going to solder the corners together. I think I will probably use some wire to reinforce the corners just to make it a little bit stronger. This I like to use it's actually coax cable, so it's copper clad steel that I just harvest off of that coax cable you'd use for your TV. That works really good. It's really strong because it's not pure copper. But anyways, this is where I'm at. So time to start thinking about the base and how to solder this together so the corners are actually square. But I'm happy it turned out good. I think they're as close to identical as they need to be. Stained glass is not a perfect art, so moving onward. Alright, well, it's time to start soldering together these sides, and I have one of those little wires I was talking about just right there, just to add a little support, and I'll put another one up on that part. And the beveled edges are fitting together pretty well. It's not perfect, but at least with square edges it would be more clumpy and thick. So, making more progress. Alright, I got it all soldered up on the corners. Turned out pretty good, I think. That's not a hole, is it? No, I don't think so. But still haven't cleaned it, so there's a lot of little splatterings and whatnot, but got all the seams. I think they look pretty good. I'll keep an eye on it as I'm continuing on here. If I see one that I don't like, I'll just resolder it again. But now it's time to work on the came for the top and the bottom. Also, this is off just slightly, but I'm hoping I can cover that up with the came. So for those of you that don't know, came is just a lead border to put on the edge. This one has a channel that'll basically, I'll cut it to the length, and that channel will just go on the edge here, and then I'll solder those up just to make a nice border. It should strengthen it a little bit. And so one thing is, when you're using lead cane, when you buy it, you should make sure that you stretch it before you actually use it. They sell little machines that are made to hold it, but I just use a vice grip and clamp it to something, and then yank on the other end with a pair of pliers and just stretch it. It hardens it a little bit, straightens it, and that's something that you definitely need to do before you're using lead cane. So this one I've just been working on getting it sized up here, so that'll just sit right on the top of that. This is that corner that's a little bit off, so when I solder it, I'm gonna have to fiddle to, maybe I'll put a little bead of lead on, like some solder on top, try to kind of fill that in before, so it won't be like a step on the corner, because this one's obviously going to be a little higher, and that'll be like a weird lump right here. So I'm just going to continue working on making those. I just cut them with a razor knife where I want it at a 45, and just tap it with a hammer to kind of just cut it, and it does a pretty good job. You can kind of, if it's bent at all, you can just straighten it out with a little pair of pliers or screwdriver or whatever, to, because it is just lead. So continue on with that. All right, well, I got all the lead cane situated on top. I maybe should have taken a video clip of that process, but this isn't really a how-to video. It's just coming along for the ride. So everything's looking good, I think. Part of it is just continually looking at every angle of it to make sure you didn't miss something, because the last thing you want to do is like move on to a different part of the project and then you realize that you should have done something. So I would say 50% of your time is just looking at what you've already done, just to see if you're okay with it. Some of that looks, I think that looks a little worse than it actually is once I clean it off. That's just the burnt flux along there. So anyway, it's looking good. I got the bottom too. So I think it's good. It feels solid when I pick it up. It's pretty square. I feel like it's off just slightly, but I only see it at certain angles. So I don't know, handmade, as good as I can do, I'm happy with it. And I think it looks really nice when you put some light in it. All right, ready to put the patina on it. And I just fold up some paper towels and use them kind of like a sponge, but I just want to dump some on here so you can see it turn black from it. Kind of interesting chemical reaction. But yep. I'm just going to do that all the way around. Well, there you go. That's how it ended up. Now to move on to the base, because it's all about that base. Alright, ready to start on the base. So I have some oak pieces that I scavenged off of a piece of furniture that I'm going to repurpose for the base. I'm going to cut this at 6 1/4 inches long, and then add a piece on this side so that the total width will be 6 1/4 square, because the maximum width at the base of there is 5 1/4, so it'll give me a 1/2 inch all the way around to add a little lip, which, alright, just going to glue these together and clamp them. Alright, I got the base glued together and cut it so that it's 6 1/4 inches square. And then I'm going to put an edge around it. I had this piece of oak that was from a dresser drawer, so I cut off the end just because I had a nice rounded edge, so I just ripped it off, and I'm gonna glue that onto the edges to go around it, and then that'll sit inside of it. Alright, I got the side pieces cut and lined up pretty good. They're not glued down yet. I'm going to sand them before I glue them, and I have already sanded the base down to 220 grit. But I want to sand these side pieces before I glue them down, because it'll be a lot easier to get all the little angles and whatever. Alright, ready to glue. God, I hope I don't mess this up. I'm going to put them on there with just a little bit on the bottom, glue them down, put this weight on top of them, try to line it out as best I can. But man, it would be heartbreaking if it were to get screwed up at this point. Alright, got it gluing. Ended up using this weight because it was the perfect size for that. Just clamp it down, and there were some gaps there before I put the clamps on them, so leave it alone. Alright, so the base is ready to drill the hole through. I ended up having to buy a 1-inch hole saw, but I'm kind of glad to do it with a brand new one because it'll probably cut a better edge. I got the, what do they call them? Platform feet, I think. Those came in yesterday. I just placed them there just to lift it up off the ground. My electrical part came in. I replaced the bulb because the one it came with was a little dim, so I might end up buying a LED one. This is just one I already had. So I am going to take it to the drill press and cut out the center, sand that new cut edge a little bit, and then time to stain it. And then once that's done, I think I'm good to go. All done. Alright, got the base done, stained, and the finish put on it. Looking awesome. My dad helped me with that part, and I appreciate it. Now I gotta get these feet put on. So we'll do that next and install the light, and we should be done. Alright, got the feet put on it. Got the light bulb in there. Let's try it out. Looking good. Awesome. Well, that was fun. I hope you enjoyed it. Turned out awesome. Thanks for watching. Till next time.